You may be wondering why I haven't gone through and manually gain staged every single track within this session. Now there's a good reason for this. One of the main reasons is all of these drums are extremely percussive and quite sharp. Using a VU meter in order to gain stage these wouldn't be ideal, as a VU reader's meting is completely dependent on how long the signal takes to pass through the meter. With drums being extremely percussive with not a lot of tail added to them, we're not going to get anywhere near 0 dB VU. Now 0 dB VU equates to minus 18 dB FS. That is the number that is considered to be the best nominal point to start mixing your tracks from. The main reason for this is that if there's any processing that goes on after this point, we're going to be hitting our plugins at a good sweet spot level. I'm not doing it this way here. What I'm doing in order to get that sweet spot level is sending my relative balance to the drum bus, of which I'm hoping to get around about minus 6.4 in total. Let's have a play and see if we're around that level for our overall drum volume.
You can follow me.
We can see we're slightly above that in places, but most of the time we're underneath that. So I know that my drums are going to come down to mix A and hit this at a nominal level. I'm going to bypass these plugins. I'm going to put this fader to 0, and then we're going to see what level we get coming in post-processing of our overall drum bus, which if we look at it, is only some slight EQ and the parallel compression bus. Let's have a look where we're at so far.
You can follow me.
So I can see here we're just above minus 6, which is okay for now. This means that I'm going to be hitting these plugins at just the right amount of volume. Not necessarily a sweet spot, but I'm definitely not overdriving them. I'm getting all of my gain power from the plugin itself. Now we can take this approach to a full mix. So far all we've been doing is taking the volume from the fader itself and hoping to be around about this area, or using the peak on the plugin here. We do have in this plugin the option to see VU and PPM. Now as mentioned before, 0 dB VU is equated to minus 18 dBFS. This is in a vacuum, so with no other interference whatsoever. In the real world, it may vary. However, I've set this plugin up so we're at minus 18 dBFS as a reference. If I play this mix, let's see where we're at now.
You can follow me.
Now, as you can see from this, we're wavering around about the +2 down to -2 area. So the average is about 0. But we are definitely not at minus 18 dBFS. Our peak is closer to -6. So let's have a look at the PPM meters as well. Now PPM, -6 dBFS, which our meters read here, equates to around about 6 to 7 on a PPM meter. So again, let's have a listen and see where we are on here.
You can follow me.
So we can see here we're at the right stage for PPM, but if we switch to VU, it's reading a much different story. The choice is yours really, and it really does depend on the style of music and what you're used to using. There is no right or wrong answer, it's just what you're comfortable with. Another thing to think about is, if I keep these VU meters on, and I open up another VU meter from a different manufacturer, like the Waves VU here, if I play these two together, you would assume they would read the same readings. They're both set to 18 dBFS. Here we've got 18 decibels of headroom at a dBFS scale, of which I've sent exactly the same here. You would now expect these to read exactly the same. Let's see if they do.
You can follow me.
As you can see, they're very, very different. The Waves VU meter is maxing out, whereas the T-Rax VU meter is nowhere near maxing out and getting closer to the 2. So I could be using 2 VU meters, but each of them will give me different readings. This is another reason why I don't necessarily like to use VU meters for a mix, especially at the later stages. It's okay towards the start of the track, but again remember, it's all dependent on the source material. Now let's try this on the drums as a whole. So I'm going to come over to the drum mix, I'm going to put a VU meter on it, and I'm going to mute all the other tracks other than the drums. Let's see where we're at.
You can
So as you can see, we're topping out. Let's add in the one from T-Rax. Make sure we're set to 18 dBFS. And let's see what we get from this one.
You can
Again, we're topping out. But if I was to put all of the tracks in together and look at our overall metering here, set again to minus 18 dBFS, let's see what we get again.
You can follow me.
Now you would assume that with more instrumentation and more elements, we would get a lot louder signal coming into the VU. However, this isn't the case. So it's extremely important to understand VU meters will act differently depending on the amount of information that's in them, how long the information lasts for, and how percussive that information is.